I'm Gloria.
And I'm Mari.
Just two women trying to inspire ourselves.
And others. I know, so today... Okay, so today we're going to let our audience get to know us, right?
Absolutely.
Well, we're getting to know each other too. Hey, we're starting out, so this is just all part of the process. We're getting to know how we work together too, so that's fun.
So this is our first official podcast.
Yes.
I guess we could say episode 1, season 1.
Take 1. All of the above.
We'll be learning as we go.
Yes. So, okay, so let's talk a little bit about how we got to where we are. And maybe we can share about how we got to our careers, this point in our careers, our journey as moms, and how we got to know each other too, how we met. So why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself, Gloria?
So, I think how I got here has been a long journey. I guess it's funny because if I were to talk about my journey, it's kind of like I start off career-wise. I guess that's what I look at to calculate that journey, which is odd to say that defines you as a person so much. But so I started off as a teacher many years ago. And I took a leave when I had my first daughter, who is now going to be 17 in June. So I took a leave thinking that I would be going back after a year. My mom retired on purpose to take care of her after that year was up. And I decided that, well, luckily enough, I was able to make the decision with their dad at the time that I didn't have to go back.
And you would stay home.
So we decided, then we had another little girl who is 15.
She's about to be a quinceañera.
Yeah, she is. So when she turned 3, I still didn't have to return to my teaching career. And I decided I would take the leap of faith and do what was a passion of mine for many years, and also my father's. So I jumped, head first with actually a friend of mine, and we took the leap. Honestly, if it wouldn't have been for her, I wouldn't have done it.
I didn't know you started with somebody else.
It didn't last very long.
Okay.
It lasted for 1 year.
Okay, that's another conversation.
And it wasn't that we didn't get along. I think it's just hard to do a business with somebody else. So we were just at different points in our lives. And, it was more, she had to return. She had to have a more official paying job, something she could depend on. And,
business is uncertain.
We just couldn't do it together at the time. So if it wouldn't have been for her courage, I don't know if I'd be here today. So even though it was very short-lived, I have to say that was my push. Because my fear was that my passion and what I loved, now I was responsible, that it had to be perfect.
Right.
I also felt that I had a photographer mentor that said, when your passion becomes your job, you often lose the passion. That stuck to me. Especially because my passion had been teaching, and I had lost the passion not because of the students, just everything else that goes along with it.
teaching.
So I experienced that firsthand. So I was very fearful of that happening again. Long story short, obviously, I'm here now.
12 years later.
Once her and I decided not to continue doing it together, that's when the name was changed, became Glow Pink Studios, because my daughter's last name is Rosado, so hence the pink.
Yes.
And nothing, full force. I was lucky enough to get the studio, and, I love it. I'm still passionate about it. Maybe sometimes I say it's more the passion than the business aspect of it. That's probably my weakness, the business part. But I will tell you, I have not looked back. I go to work every time loving that I'm going to go. I don't sigh, even if it's, on a weekend or late. It doesn't bother me. I love it.
Well, as one of your clients or somebody who's been on the other side of the camera, I can totally say that I feel that. And then you always make your clients and the families you work with feel that passion and that love, and I think how much you pour into them, like that makes such a big difference, you know? You totally, so we were talking about like capturing beautiful moments, and like I feel like you do such a great job at capturing like beautiful moments for families. And were you always into photography? You said that it was a passion of your dad's too.
So my dad, it was his hobby.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He took my quinceañera portraits.
I did not know that.
So that was never his job.
Okay, but he just loved to do it.
He had a dark room.
Oh, so legitimately he had it as a hobby.
He loved it. He loved it with all his heart. He just was never able to do it.
Right.
And I will say a story that if he ever hears this, he will be shocked that I know this. But I once had someone here working in the studio, helping me clean up and organize. And I stepped away. He was here doing some little handy work around. And him and her got into a conversation. And she says that he teared up because he told her that he was just so proud of the fact that he got to see me live out what he
would have loved
to have done. And that he was just in awe that I was able to do it and be so happy doing it. So.
Oh my gosh.
He doesn't know I know that. But she told me, she's like, your father teared up. And I was like, my father? I've only seen him cry once when his parents passed.
I feel like that's such a full circle moment too, because now, what you're doing, I think our parents now as moms, we can attest to this, right? Like everything that we do is to like give something better to our kids and to make it so that it's easier for them so that they can have it even better than we've had it. Yeah. And, then to be able to see you fulfill that dream. It's so funny because my dad was kind of like a catalyst for what I'm doing too.
Really?
Because I saw him be in business for himself my whole life. He was an entrepreneur. So even though I was like in politics, it didn't, I always wanted to have my own business, but I didn't know what that business would be.
Right.
Because I saw the life, my mom was a teacher and my dad worked from home. He had his own business. And so like I loved the lifestyle that our family had. I always had my parents around. Like there was always one of them at everything. And so I wondered like, how will I be able to create that in my own life? And like that was my kids were my motivation before I had them. And so I kind of measure my career based on them too, because I thought of them before I started my business.
So tell me about yours, and then we'll backtrack.
Okay.
I think you asked me about capturing
beautiful moments.
I sidetracked.
We'll talk about that because you know what? So I started, obviously, my career started off in politics. I worked in D.C. I moved there after college, and I met Rich there, which Rich, my husband. And, I started my Mary Kay business really as just like a fun side hustle, which I think a lot of people do that at some point. And for me, I was young, I wasn't married and have no kids, so I was like, extra money I can travel, I can go to Home Goods more. I can, so just like fun things. And but as we got engaged and then we were gonna get married, and like I told you, like I always wanted to have a career that I could be home or that I could have flexibility. And so that was something that was important to Rich and I. And so I was 30, and I said, if I don't do this now, when am I going to do it? I don't know. No, I wasn't even, I was 30, so it was like 7 years ago that I took the leap of faith to leave my full-time career and job to do this full-time. And for me, it's like, it was I never knew what the vehicle would be, but I always like prayed that God would like knock me over the head with the right opportunity, and that I would like have the courage to try something new. And, it was also my best friend that brought me into the business, and I actually did it to partially help her, and I don't think I would have started for myself. Isn't that funny? But I did it to help her, and in the process I've gotten so much more. And so I'm celebrating 10 years this year, and I can't even believe it, really. Now I get to be home with the kids, and they're turning 4 and 1, as you know. Gloria gets to capture them. As we grow. I know you've seen my family grow. So I love that. And I was sharing with you, right, that like part of what brought me to that, I had this like career coach who gave me permission to like explore new things, because I felt like none of the things that I loved or none of my passions like made sense or were connected. And she said, well, I see a commonality. Can I share it with you? And she said, I see that you like to make things like, you like to leave things more beautiful than you found them. And I love that. And I feel like you do the same thing.
That's a very big compliment, I think.
I think it is a compliment. I took it as a compliment. So I feel like you're the same way. Like you totally do that with photography. What do you feel like is your your favorite thing to capture? What are the moments that you love to capture the most?
Gosh, obviously,
I know you mostly work with families, right?
I think raw emotion, unexpected moments are probably my favorite, because you can't plan it.
Right.
And I'm also such a planned out person that when that happens, it's just so refreshing, such a breath of fresh air that I love it. The unexpected.
Yeah.
And to me, one of the favorite things, it's funny because I'll have a lot of moms tell me, especially like when it comes to when they're getting digitals or something like that, not so much a print, and they have like a certain amount to choose from, and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm having such a hard time choosing, give me another week, I can't. And I'm always like, okay, that's a good thing, that's a good thing. And I tell them, I'm like, no, yes, I'm glad you're having a hard time. Like, I want you to have a hard time.
That always happens to me.
Because I would hate to think that it was so easy, and
yeah, like, there was only 3 good.
I didn't do a good job. And I think it's about capturing the beauty, loving what you do, creating a life that you love.
Yes.
And I think that comes across. I think, how you said you could feel it. I really do think that a person's sincerity comes across right away. Mm-hmm. Of course, I've had tough families, I've had difficult situations, and that's just part of having a business.
100%.
But even at those times, like, I see the value in it, and I'm not I don't hate the situation. I find whether it's a lesson or something I could do better, or I've never been in this situation where I've seen it as a negative.
I love that.
So, I learn, and I think it helps me capture the next family, the next moment.
And develop also as a photographer, as a person.
Yeah. So, and going back to how she told you about how you like to leave things.
Oh, yeah.
I think that even extends beyond, like, when you're just that type of person.
Yes.
I think it extends beyond.
Are you like
your
that in your
job.
personal life?
Oh, yeah. And the thing is, like, I think when you're like that, you don't see it as work. You don't see it as 100%. Extra. So, here's an example. This past Sunday was Easter. Right. And, usually Easter is very casual. We decided to have breakfast because one of my nieces had to drive back to FSU and she had to leave by noon. So it was like this whole strategic timing and how we were going to do it. So it ended up being breakfast. Between 9:30 and 10 a.m. we were beginning, and I decide, well, I have, the tables in the back. My friend has chairs. I'm going to get So I totally, I'm putting tables in the yard, and I'm putting and, my sister-in-law walks in and she's like, okay, seriously, you even have the chalkboard that says he's risen? And she's like, why do you do this? Like, and she expressed how her mother always felt when there was a holiday that she wanted to go out to a restaurant. She wanted to go somewhere because if she had to do the work, it wasn't a holiday for her. Like, it wasn't relaxing. And my sister-in-law kind of agrees with that. And see, with me, it shows how your parents kind of like mold you,
shape you. Yeah.
For me, it was always at my parents' house. Everybody came over. It was the cooking and the this and the that. And to me, it's second nature. I love it. I enjoy it. There's moments I go crazy, but
Right.
I love the craziness of it. You know, and making it beautiful, making it look nice, seeing the kids and
Right.
how they, you know, just view it and having that as an example for them, to me, that's great. Like just seeing everybody happy together, laughing and
Yeah, I'm the same way. It brings me joy. And like I know that some people get shut down by like the idea of putting things like that together. Like right now, we're going to be going to Disney for the kids' birthdays, but I'm going to do like a little birthday party for them. And literally for Julian, it's going to be like 4 little friends. But like I'm already planning, you know, we're going to do, it's going to be Toy Story. And I'm going to set up the Toy Story movie. And, you know, I'm going to do like a little, you know, casual little movie theater with the twinkle lights. And like, I love the idea of like creating those like beautiful moments, because to me, my mom was the same way. My mom always created that for us. So then I want to do that for the people around me. Like it brings me joy, you know, and even if it is work, because it can be, it doesn't feel like it, you know, and the pretty plates and the settings and the flowers and yeah, I love
let me
that.
ask you something. Since your kids are younger,
Yeah.
do you get, when you're in the midst of it, of the planning, the day of in particular, are you enjoying it every second, or are you stressing over that it has to be perfect?
So it's funny you say that, because I feel like I was just telling my mom this the other day, that when initially, I think I was very stressed out, and I recognized that. And I said, I love doing this, and I want to continue to feel joy in these moments. So how is it that I can still do this for everybody, but like be present for my kids? Because like I remember we moved back 3.5 years ago. That first year I was looking at pictures. I made a ham. I made asparagus. Like I had this gigantic, and I did it all.
For the first birthday, or are you
No,
talking
for
about
Easter. Okay, so I was like comparing Easters. And then I was like, oh, and then like I've seen the progression of the years. And it was because somewhere along the way, and I was like that for Christmas too. My Christmas gift to everybody was always, I would make breakfast. So I would wake up before everyone woke up, and I would make breakfast for my whole family, like all the extended cousins, everybody. But along the way, I've realized if it's to be sustainable, I can still create the beautiful scenario, like the you know, decorations, but I have to like pass on a little bit of the responsibility so that I too can be present and enjoy it and not be so stressed out. So I've learned now to like enjoy it more. And so like it's so funny because you know, my mom was like, aren't you exhausted? I was like, no. Everybody brought stuff. We all shared in the load. It was great, you know, like I delegated. This is what I got to do more. So, you know, I feel like that's made it better.
You know, I ask you that because when my girls were younger, especially their first birthday party,
Got it.
I do Christmas Eve at my house a lot.
Right.
Now I do sometimes Christmas Eve plus Christmas breakfast, because my girls love the whole brunch thing.
Yeah.
So now that they're older,
Right.
that holds a lot of value, that they love that. So, but I remember and I think it also had a lot to do with my age. You know, I had the girls, I was 31 when I had the first one. So back then, I think I'm still OCD, I'm still a perfectionist, but I was so concerned about it being perfect and so perfectly presented that it was more stressful than fun back then. And, you know, I think you probably learned it quicker than I did. It took me a long time.
A friend of mine, who I was just with today, she told me about this book called Present Over Perfect. And I haven't even finished reading it, but I just read like the very beginning. And I have to tell you that that's like, I feel like a lot of my generation of moms, like my friends that have younger kids, like a lot of them have had to, like, have realized that so fast. Like, I want to be present and it's not going to be perfect. And that's okay.
Right.
I've had to let go of that because I think my tendency is to want it to be like flawless and perfect. And then you end up fighting with everybody and you argue with why didn't you take the trash out? And why didn't you put this here? And like, that would have been me.
That was me.
Right.
That was me.
And then it's like, well, it was supposed to be Christmas and you're supposed to be celebrating the birth of Christ and now, or like the resurrection of Christ. And now all of a sudden it's like, instead of being this wonderful time together, you're just upset, that everything didn't happen the way you imagined it. And I think that kind of like goes back to like even personal and also professionally. I think sometimes, as you're like, and I've had to let go of a lot of expectations. I think sometimes we think the path to our dreams and like what we desire, that end, vision of what we want for our life, it's not always so from
Defined.
point A to B to C. It's like I've let go of those expectations to realize that, if I'm evolving and growing, if I'm becoming the best version of myself, then okay, my journey is going to look different from hers or yours, but I'll get there. Mm-hmm. And, so like there's been like a lot of, I think I always had a lot of expectations on myself of, what my career would look like or what creating a family would look like. And I mean, about, my personal journey and losing, my twins before having Julian. And I think in that loss, and I'm sure I'll talk about that more at one point, that helped me to like release a lot of my desire for perfection. Like I had to like resign to just sometimes it's not, no, I'm not the one in control pretty much ever. So yeah, I think it's been a journey, but like in business too, I know that for me, that's been, hard. Like sometimes I'm hard on myself of like this journey. Oh, I'm not here. I'm not at this point, but like finding beauty also in that journey and knowing that, how have I grown? How far have I come? And, celebrating that. So
I don't know why as moms, I think we do that to ourselves, that we feel it has to be this perfect little world and perfect little everything. I mean, I see, as a photographer on the other end, when I'm photographing families, obviously I see it completely different. So there are a few families, in particular the moms, that come in with this preconceived notion of how their children have to be
and dress
during the session. And, when they're not meeting the mother standards, you see the frustration, you see, that the energy's changing, and I have to reinforce the fact that it's okay. It's okay. Let them do what they're doing. Let it be.
Right.
I'll take care of it. Because I just, and I've been on the other ends, like even with my teenage daughters, there's been times I come out crying and I'm taking our family portrait because my expectation as a mother
is
different as my expectation as a photographer. And in fact, now that I say that, someone the other day made a comment to me about a story I told them, and they said, it shifted in that fashion. It was about me with my daughters. And they said, that scenario shifted because you looked at it with your heart rather than as their mother. And that was just like, oh my gosh, they're right.
It's so interesting because I think sometimes, and I know you're right, because our kids also don't fixate on the things that we fixate on.
Absolutely.
And, I think I enjoy my kids more, like, because now I'm trying to just enjoy them instead of like enjoying what I thought it was going to be like, or the morning was, like Christmas morning was going to be like, or like, even the day that we came here, they took pictures of us with Selena, like for that he got the little cars. Like sometimes the moments that are captured, like if you,
I love him playing with the cars.
That was like one of the best pictures.
Okay, you know what I just thought of?
It was not expected.
Do you remember when we did the Christmas mini at that house and he wouldn't stop playing with oh my gosh.
With the blocks?
I'm sorry, yes.
Yes.
So
but that picture, okay, so you got a picture of him that all the blocks are stacked and he's standing in front of it.
Something else.
Right. And he was like standing in front of it. I love that picture. It's on my wall. It's like one of my favorite pictures. And the funny thing is that it represents, it captures beautifully that moment in time. At that time, he was obsessed with sorting, like, I'm telling you, it was like this obsession. He was obsessed with sorting things by numbers, by size. So like whenever I look at the picture, I'm like, oh my gosh, remember how he used to sort everything in the house? Like it captured something. No, do you remember the minis we took with Amelia, my niece?
Yes.
That they were hysterically crying.
So she starts crying. He looks at her and just goes,
and then because of that, you brought out the cookies. And literally one of my favorite pictures of Julian was captured because of that moment. He was eating a little cookie. And Rich and I look at that picture. It's still on my wall. He's eating that cookie and he's like looking all serious. And he has like his little chubby hands holding the cookie. Crumbs all over his lips. But it's like we weren't planning that. It just happened. You know, like it.
But that's the thing. Like, none of those moments were all far from perfect or anything you would have imagined would have happened. And for me, it's easier to be like, it's okay, Mari, it's fine. Right. Because I'm not, I think it has a lot to do with this. I'm not emotionally involved at the moment.
Right.
So I'm able to see it from an observer.
Exactly.
And say, it's fine. Because I trust enough that we'll get what we need to get.
Yeah.
And that's going back to the things I told you, that it's those unexpected, unplanned moments that honestly I love most, because my favorite thing is newborns in general.
Yeah.
Like just holding them and spending that time with them, and the smell. Like people think I'm weird saying that, but the smell,
newborns smell
oh my gosh,
so good.
It's just crazy. But it's those unexpected moments in those other situations and I don't feel it at the moment.
But in
it's
retrospect,
funny because at the moment I'm just making sure I'm getting what I feel will make, it may not be what you expected, but I want to make sure it's something that captured you as a family or your child at the moment. So I'm still concerned about that. And I don't see it honestly in full and feel it until I put it on my laptop and then I'm seeing it. And it's funny because a lot of times I'll open the images up and I'm looking at them and I'm like, and I've even like teared up sometimes because that's when I could like, oh,
you're like, something special happened.
Because at the moment, and then like even when we're done, then it's like, okay, we're cleaning them up, you're getting ready to leave, I'm making sure you have everything, I make sure I have my stuff. So I don't have, like, the mental state is not to appreciate it, which I think that happens to us in any aspect of life. Like even party planning or this, like it's after when you're like, oh my God.
We made something beautiful.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I love that. Well, I will say this. I'm excited because I think we, are going to have a lot of fun things to talk about. And this journey is just starting, and we have a lot of beautiful things to create. I know we have so much in common, and I'm excited to explore some of those things with the people who are tuning in. So
I know we had to stop ourselves because we started talking about some stuff. And we need to wait.
Really so I know we want to leave with a question to ponder about, right? Because next time we're going to be digging deeper into a subject. So we want you to think about, and I want you to think about this too, like a time where you wish you had been treated a little bit differently. And we're going to dive deep into that. So until next time, all right. Okay.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.